Thank you guys for being here. I just want to start off with Craig. Where did you get the idea for this film?
The idea is based on a true story. I read this news article and couldn't shake it, and that pretty much is what kind of propelled me to write a film about it.
And I know earlier you had mentioned influences by Stanley Milgram's obedience experiments. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I was just really fascinated with those. I mean, Milgram was like studying obedience and ultimately he was like looking at the Holocaust, like is what his focus was, you know. But he just came to like a series of kind of repeatable. It seemed that over and over and over he would do this experiment and come to the same percentage of like the same conclusion, I should say, and the conclusion was that more than half of the time, more than half of the people, when asked to do things by someone that they look up to as an authority figure, they do them even if they disagree with them. Which I just think is interesting. I mean, statistically, you or any of us statistically would do that. Which I think is fascinating. And I was like looking at that and reading about that kind of in the abstract, and then I found the story, which was sort of pointed to as a real-life example of this phenomenon.
How did that go into crafting the narrative? Milgram asked a series of 4 questions, and the first question that they would ask, 65% of the respondents would go all the way to the lethal end. But when he got to the 4th question of saying, well, you have no choice, is when people were not obedient. When I saw
the character who says no.
Yeah, is that where you drew your inspiration, or was that out of a true life story?
No, it's out of a true life story. I mean, a lot of the events in this are very similar to events in that happened in the real scenario. Actually, the weirder and crazier and more yucky and bizarre things in our movie, the more likely it is that actually happened. And in that case, that actually happened. That it was stopped by a person who had worked at the restaurant earlier in the day and came back later and was kind of thrown into the situation and was just one of those people that was not of the mind that he should keep going and had a different composition of so.
Thank you. Dreama, wonderful performance. What drew you to the role? And how did you prepare for it?
I remember specifically when the story hit in 2004, the particular incident in Mount Washington, Kentucky, and being really fascinated by just the idea that this could happen to people and people could do exactly what they're told, even though what they're being told is absolutely atrocious and terrible. And I was really interested in telling the story from the perspective of the person who was being compliant and the person who thought that everything was at stake here and she thought she was going to lose everything and she absolutely had to do this to get out of trouble that she had no right to be in. That really spoke to me and I thought that was interesting.
And the film was done over the phone. When was the first time you guys all actually met Pat? Did you wait till the end to meet, so you didn't have a personal connection? How did that work?
I actually wanted to do that at first. I actually wanted to make it be a thing where they had no idea who the person on the phone was the entire movie until the like at the wrap party, or maybe like when they came to like this cast and crew screening, they would meet the other person. But then like after about like 1 second of like thinking about that, I was like, that is the meanest thing. That means that basically Pat would just be like in a hole the entire movie.
Yeah, and then also they would have developed negative feelings. I mean, they would hate me because I was a guy who was abusive towards them. Such was the case that we're all professionals and we met and we all like each other very much, and it made it easier on me to do things that weren't very pleasant for me to do, because I know I had their support, and I knew that they were in a sense giving me permission to be able to do that, and it wasn't personal. And at the end of the day, we could all hug and laugh about it.
It's the kind of thing where it's like the experiment of that is fascinating, but
Yeah.
ultimately was like not necessary at all to what the movie
And I'm
does.
sure there are directors who stick with that original, wouldn't this be great?
Right.
Like
But
there was,
this is
yeah.
sort of like...
And then don't come to their senses about how it will affect really the outcome
No.
when you come down to it.
I mean, our job essentially is to compartmentalize, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we have to, as actors, we have to pretend that we're in love with people, we have to pretend that we hate people, none of that is true at the end of the day. So I think it was fine the way it was.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
Yeah, I
totally
mean,
worked.
yeah, and
Yeah.
professionals, we know how to recreate that. We don't need to be manipulated or manipulate ourselves into, thinking things are actually real. We have active imaginations, and we can pretend, and it seems to be, at least from the audience reactions, seem real. I guess they're very moved by it. So.
And so there's many instances, and in Dreamo, where you're on the phone with Pat, and you're just simply listening to him, reacting to him. At that time in the filming, were you actually speaking with him? Was he in the room? How did that work?
Well, he was downstairs most of the time because another set was built due to our very smart director. Because what kind of movie would it be? It is a voice on the phone for me always throughout. I never see him. And to have tried to pretend, that isn't what acting is, and it would have been just a slight disaster, I think, to try to do that. And the times when it didn't work technically, because it is hard, Pat came up and he was on the phone, but just not downstairs. Out of sight.
Because you can't have people just sit and react for a long time if they don't have something to, like...
It becomes self-generated, the response, which is just the antithesis of you to me, me to you. Yeah.
So we were on the phone the whole time. I was being filmed on another set with another camera while they were being filmed. So all of the phone conversations in the film are actual phone conversations that we were having.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Lastly, are your expectations of the audience's reactions matching up with reality?
Can we start at that end?
Sure.
It's a challenging movie. I mean, I completely... It's a challenging movie for me to watch, and I made it. So I knew that it would be challenging and it wouldn't be for everybody. But I do think that what's been interesting is that since we screened, mostly I've gotten people coming up to me very intrigued to talk about the exact same things that fascinated me about the story and made me want to make the movie. So yeah, it's been exactly what I wanted it to be in that sense,
I don't know that I could really improve on that. I would say that I knew that the film was provocative. I wasn't prepared for the response yesterday, which was, somewhat volatile, but it was largely positive. It's important to note, and I'm always excited to do anything. And I had lots of questions about this, and that's why I wanted to do it. So it's always exciting to have something that people want to talk about, whether they're bothered by it or intrigued by it or they enjoyed it or whatever, because it means that it got through to them in some way. And so in that sense, this was something that meant something to me and got through to me, and the response is that it's getting through to people. So I guess it does sort of meet my expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think in film, you want your subject and your theme to be primal. You want it to be something that everyone understands and everyone relates to. And I think the subject matter, while on obviously a higher level or a higher stake than and an uncomfortable place where people would not like to go to, nonetheless, it's something that people understand and they can relate to a situation that they've been in where, as Craig said before, that they've been told to do something or felt like they had to do something that they weren't actually comfortable with or wasn't part of themselves. So I think that, in my opinion, the definition of a good movie is not one that you want to see over and over again, but it's one that provokes you and makes you think, and I think that's exactly what this film does.
Although it's also... I like movies that you want to see over and over again.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
but
it's funny,
still,
we're making this kind of movie and we have to kind of defend this one way. It's like there are two types of movies that... there's a lot more than two types of movies, but there's certainly entertainments that you get a certain type of thing out of, and then there's movies that you watch for different reasons, and this is one of those. You know what I mean? So.
Yes,
right?
along with what you were saying, which I thought was very true. I think this this film, in a universal sense, can challenge you to step up a little and take a look, just for maybe a minute, on how you operate in the world. And I think it's very surprising to realize how often you defer without having a second thought about it. When we were filming it, it had a very good feeling to it, which is often it's played out that's the way it comes together. You're in the hands of a really good filmmaker and a great cast, and the vibe is right. You think something's going to happen here that you want to have happen, which is for it to hit and a lot of people to see. I mean, who knows?
Well, thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks,
care.
Andrew.
Pat. Craig.
Pleasure.
Thank you.